My very special guest today is Richard Seeley, and that is a name that I'm sure you know because he has been in public life for most of his life. Of course, he comes from good stock, we have to say, so Austin Seeley being your dad. And first thing I'm going to ask you, Richard, is growing up with such a flamboyant and well-known father, was that intimidating in any way, having a father like Austin?
Almost as intimidating as being interviewed by Vic Fernandes. Let me just say at the outset, I want to commend you for what you're doing here at Capital Media. I do tune in periodically, and I want to encourage you and Rebecca, of course, to continue doing the great work.
Yeah.
And I want to do that up front.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
We tend not to salute entrepreneurs in our country. And we always think that people who own businesses, we always highlight perhaps the negative side of things and not understand it's a real struggle. Mm-hmm. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me. And of course, I'm here on the red couch.
The red couch.
Red couch.
For a red couch chat.
Perhaps my next visit, I would have convinced you to the point where you may have a blue couch.
A blue couch.
Growing up, I mean, what I would say, growing up in the circumstance that I did, where, my father was a banker by profession, but in many ways, that was just a vocation for him because his passion and his love was sports administration and young people and helping in that regard, service. He, of course, would have inherited that from his father, my grandfather, who was a teacher by profession, but also was active with the BSTU. And in essence, I suppose I grew up in circumstances where there was always a sense of service.
You have a career as an engineer. Tell us about that, because I don't think that's a part of your life that is very, very well known. Well, certainly not to people like myself.
No, you're correct. I guess the assumption is that when you're involved in politics, and it is a fact, in the business of lawmaking, most of the participants are lawyers. I still call myself an engineer first and foremost. Mm-hmm. I mean, when I'm going into the supermarket or the gas station and someone refers to, are you Richard Seeley, the politician? I correct them. I said, I'm Richard Seeley, the civil engineer. Because that is still my calling, my only calling. Yes, I've been politically active, but I don't feel any differently about my profession than Sir Henry Ford feels about his. When you say Sir Henry Ford, you say the lawyer who's into politics, or was into politics.
Yes.
So I don't like to talk about myself, but I've done okay.
Well, on the red couch, you have to talk a little bit about yourself, because we want to get to know the person behind the public persona.
Well, okay. Studied in the University of Florida, but I did my master's in business administration right here at KFL. And I took that civil engineering experience and set up my own shingle quite early. My business partner at the time is, of course, recently deceased, Boyce. We had SB testing and engineering, and we were the geotechnical specialists, and still remain such, actually, in Barbados. And as I say, we've done some other work in the Caribbean as well. But most of the major projects that required a geotechnical investigation in Barbados of recent vintage would have had the fingerprints of SB testing and engineering on it.
What made you decide on now a life in politics?
I think the decision to become politically active at the very highest level didn't properly occur for me until I had finished my university education.
You would be, if not the longest, certainly one of the longest serving ministers of tourism. I suspect you probably were the longest serving.
The longest.
Minister
10 and a half. The late Harold Bernard St. John had 9 years in me, but he had so many other
ministries.
He was Tom Adams' deputy prime minister at the time, and trade industry, a whole set of things.
But he did the house too as well.
Of course. in those days, you know, it was a little different.
What did you see as the big challenges and successes for during your tenure?
Right away, I took the oath of office in the 20th of January, I believe it was, and by March, the price of oil was $149 a barrel. I think it was. That was the highest it had ever been, or has been since. You can check that. That is easy to confirm. It was the worst economic recession we had seen since 1929. Of course, other things have happened since then, but it was a period of tremendous challenge. And the other thing was, parallel to that, you also had the fact we were a mature destination. Our room stock had been largely unmoved since 1980. Other destinations were doing new and exciting things, and Barbados was seen as mature, dowdy. Yes, we had a high rate of repeat visitorship, but again, that in itself is a twin-edged sword. As your demographic of your average visitors getting older and older,
yeah,
you need to watch that. So there were those challenges that were largely there for a while, and then there was the challenge of the economic situation that was global. I mentioned to you the room stock of Barbados. 6,000 rooms in 2008, 2018, 7,000 rooms. I also used to make the point again that domestic investment is also important. And existing players, indigenous brands, need to be encouraged to expand their room stock and also to take the quality of their rooms up. And we were able to achieve that. I think that changing the framework where we allowed inputs to the sector to be duty-free, it was controversial. I mean, I guess I could say it now. I mean, it wouldn't surprise anybody. The Ministry of Finance was bristling at this. You know, how dare you allow Richard Seeley and the tourism people to deprive us of all of this revenue? You know, but the truth is, we had to make our sector globally competitive.
You sound like you miss where you were before. It sounds to me like you're firing a shot across the bow, that you have unfinished business.
I believe I do. I believe I do. But what I will say though is that I had 15 years in Parliament, and partisanship, I've enjoyed it and had my fill of it. What concerns me is Barbados.
Well, I suspect we haven't heard the last of you, but thank you, Richard Seeley, for giving us this opportunity to have some insights into your life, your career, and the choices that you have made. And look forward to hearing you on some of these topics.
But thank you very much.
Always a pleasure.
All the best.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
All right, team, ready?
Yeah.
All right.
So what we do is we